Chief Hudson, remind me how many years you have?
53.
53. And in those 53 years, I imagine you've seen some pretty incredible things and some things that you don't want to ever see again, I'm sure.
Yep.
What's the difference between PTSD and just normal job trauma?
So again, this is Bob Hudson's definition, but I think that everybody hears PTSD, and I think that definition is, post-traumatic stress disorder, afterwards. So I think that when that comes to mind, that to me is somebody in the military that's gone to battle and has been in a war zone for a month, 6 months, a year, and they've seen terrible things, but then they're done. And they come back from that, or hopefully they're done. I mean, I have some friends that have gone 3, 4, 5 times to, areas across the world. But hopefully that post-traumatic, you can then go get some help, and that you're not getting more of that. I look at what we in the public safety field is more cumulative traumatic stress disorder, because it's, again, using the analogy of a cup, and I take my bottle of water and I go on a call that's, something we don't want to see. So we pour a little bit of liquid into that cup. And then 2 days later, a week later, might be a month later, you get another call that kind of tips it over the edge, and you pour a little more and a little more and a little more cumulatively over a period of time. And then eventually, if you don't do anything to stop that, you're eventually going to pour that liquid in, and it's going to go over the top of the cup onto the table. We don't want that to happen. So we, again, in the public safety field, we see it a little bit here, a little bit there, but it's a long-term process. It's a chronic process. And again, hopefully your agency has someone that you can go talk to. It's not, it's not weakness to go vent. Like I say, I've done it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed to tell people that I have. And it's just, taking care of yourself. And so we see it much differently than anybody else, because it's just a continual process over however long your career is. If you're in the business for 25, 35, 45 years or more, it has an impact on you. There's no way it can't. But how you deal with that makes a difference in how much you drag around that ball and chain that you drag around with you.
So here's a young person gets to the department at 20 years old. One that I know personally saw 6 suicides within the first 6 months. So at what point is that cup full? Because if you wait till you're 40 and 50, decide to finally do something about it, so much is already spilled out all over all those that you love, and it's had its impact. I know you're a firm believer of preventative and doing it before it gets to that point.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody's going to have a different amount of pour because of what their call volume is. If they're a smaller, slower agency, they may not see some of it. If they're a busy agency that they're running 10, 15 calls a day, if it's a different amount that you see. So it's different from provider to provider. But the bottom line is, in my opinion, it should be something that you just do as a part of your normal self-care. You determine what's best for you, your timing, but getting it off your chest, not waiting till you start having feelings that, hey, I hate my job, I hate this, I don't want to go home. Being proactive is really the way to go.
That first step's probably the hardest step. That first meeting that you had with that professional, can you talk about the relief or what it did for you just after one visit? Well,
the funny part about it is I'd been involved in some counseling prior in my life. So when I went to 9/11, my agency required all of us to go to a series of interventions with a mental health clinician in the Detroit area when I was up there, which is a little bit different. And so when I ended up with the clinician that we're using here locally, ironically, when we were in a meeting together, as we were setting up kind of a program up within Montgomery County, and we went like everybody else does when you're in a meeting. You go around the room and you give your name and what you do, and a little bit about your background. And so when I introduced myself, because it was related to mental health, I said, I worked at ground zero for 3 days from September 12th, 13th, and 14th. And I acknowledge it changes me. It has changed me. I get emotional for the United States flag now. You'll see it right now. And so our clinician to be was sitting across from me at a table, and she looked at me. She goes, "You need to come talk to me." And that was the door opener for her. And I did, and found that having somebody that is in a public safety background, has a family in public safety, has been around it for a long time, it makes a lot of difference than just having somebody that's just got, the letters after their name because they went through a process. Those people don't understand. And sometimes you're going to walk out there more confused because they don't know how to deal with it. So it's important to find a clinician that does actually understand what we do.
Well, everything that we have on the resource page, I want you, Chief Hudson, to make sure that it's approved of someone that you would recommend. And then that first step being the hardest one of just going to see someone, from your experience of what you've heard from others, do they keep coming back once they experience that one? Does obviously, it's different for every person that goes. But what would you say to encourage someone to take that first step, and what could it possibly do for them?
It opens the doors to being able to vent and to let brush some of that off your shoulders. You're not carrying that around with you all the time. And again, like I say, the clinician that I'm familiar with makes you feel comfortable having the conversation. And you may have a conversation that you don't even know if it's really related to everything, but they're building a rapport. They're letting you talk about your life and things that have happened in your life. And it's just all part of, letting it go. And that's I think an important thing for people to do. And from my experience with some of my staff that have utilized it, they felt it was very beneficial and were more than happy to go back. In fact, we had to talk about how many times, are we going to cover this? Because that there are valid issues that fire departments and police agencies have to deal with. That's a budgetary cost to all that, but we're at least now putting our people as a priority before we didn't do that much before.
Yeah. Well, Chief, thanks for sharing this. Thanks for sharing your experience with this. And like you, I want to encourage those to look at those resources and reach out if you have a hint of even needing some help. Just do it.
Yeah, absolutely.